So, the last chunk now, before we take an exercise as well at the end to try and consolidate all the many slides I've been through about all the different facets of a business plan, is looking at the business model and system itself, how to build up the different business model elements, building a business case and understanding and talking about the risks, and then looking at an implementation plan. And then we'll do a little case exercise. So, one way in which you should try and consider describing your business is with the help of some sort of a model of what the business system is and how you map onto your business maps onto this. It could be as generic as this, a value chain here: research and development, production, marketing and sales, distribution and service. Depending on your type of the type of business you're looking at, whether it's very product focused and manufacturing focused, whether it's more of a service, whether it's going to be insourced or outsourced, you may want to expand on certain of these. I think the example here is for a manufacturing company, it would make sense to subdivide the production stage into purchasing, raw material processing, component production and assembly, for example. So expand this model depending on your needs and how it best suits your business plan. And just to take an example here, this is an example of a company proposing new measuring equipment where their key business area is the agro industry, so agricultural industry, and it's measuring equipment for diagnosing the quality of agricultural products. They've decided that the research and development for their business is going to be done in-house. That's their key value add, is their own research and development. Production, they're going to produce their own prototypes and their own first run of production themselves. And then once the business is up to scale, they're going to outsource that to China. Marketing and sales, all the core business-based marketing and sales around the agricultural business area, they're going to keep in-house, but should there come other spin-off areas, so it could be sampling of wine, sampling of chemicals and so forth, they're going to organize that in spin-off organizations, so the technology is the same, and if there's new areas come up, they'll create a new organization for measuring the quality of chemicals or measuring the quality of wine or what it should be now. Distribution, they're going to create partnerships with suppliers of other equipment which is going out to the agro industry already. So they're going to partner up the whole logistics and distribution of their products with wholesalers and distribution channels which exist already. And then in terms of service, similar to the marketing and sales, they're going to service their core business products, the agricultural equipment in-house, and other sectors will be organised and serviced under the spin-off organisations. So this is an important exercise to go through to be clear for yourselves as to what we keep in-house and what we outsource. And as you can see here, some of it isn't outsourced straight away, it's just we plan to outsource it when we get up to full rollout of the business. So, and this has a direct relation, as you can imagine, to the costs and the revenues of your business, which takes us on to the case and the risks. One really important thing to do in a business plan is to look at your profit and loss risks and to make a statement as to what the profit and loss of your business could be. So the list should cover four main areas, I'd say. One is revenue. Where's the revenue going to come from? In which ways, in which tempo is it going to come? And which sources? Either new sales or servicing or maintenance or all three. The cost of the goods sold is another post that you need to identify and detail. maybe the cost of the goods in themselves are relatively low if it's a less physical-oriented business product or business plan you're looking at. But it's all the costs incurred to produce the product which is coming out and to get it out there to the customer. And then you have expenses of personnel, direct personnel, so the people who are looking around the main core business, and also the indirect expenses, logistics and other components which you're buying in and so forth. And that could look like this, and you do a statement which is a projection. This is in millions of euro. The revenue we expect to get from this product, and the product was launched in 2000, should be launched in 2009, should be 65 million euros. The year after, 513 and so forth. And they project 5 years into the future. What are the expenses we have? Well, the total expense is 209 million euros here, so this is a big investment here, this product. And growing, the expenses will grow over time because we expect the product to be rolled out further and further. This is interesting, this is done in percent of revenues. So in the first year we expect that our expenses, total expenses, are going to be 322% of our revenues. And in 5 years' time, our total expenses are going to be 83% of our revenues. That means we've got a margin of 17% in 5 years. And then breaking that down, you can see cost of goods sold, marketing and sales, administration, R&D, in real figures and in percents. So many figures in percent. And you can see the breakdown here. An investor would love to see this, and again, the figures will most probably be wrong, but the fact that you're paying attention to these types of detail would give a great confidence to the investor, even if it's just these, getting the labels right on the left of the axis here. Then we have something called earnings before interest and tax. This is where you're taking the revenue minus the expenses. And you can see that a classic curve of a new business coming in, and it's showing in percentage of revenues where you're turning from a big investment into a profit for the organization. Anybody who comes with a business plan which looks like this will be laughed at. This is a typical business plan where we say a profit and loss estimation where we say we have to have some sort of investment, and at some stage we hit the break even, and then we break even financially. This is the business break even, this is financial break even, but we need to understand that there's going to be some sort of an investment we need to make here, which is what you can see clearly in the figures up there. Let's take that a step further. How do you go about creating these things in the left-hand column here? This is the important things to get right and to try and put some figures on. Try and build a tree of revenue and cost. The tree of revenues for this case could be transactions, which could be revenue from value-added service, flat fee-based and volume-based, and keep breaking the tree down until you get to a level where you know that we can't get any further details, and to a level which is sensible for you to begin to collect data. Again, this is forecasting, so it's data which is as realistic as you can get it, but it's data which is going out into all the corners, that you're not missing and forgetting an area here. And similarly, you can do a similar cost model. So that was a revenue model. The cost model could be, what are our total costs? We have upfront costs and annual costs maybe. This is based on an internet-based business. Consulting, implementation, headhunters, others. That's to get the business started. And when the business is running, we've got personnel, marketing, sales, IT, others, and detail them all and try and put figures on those. So it's actually a relatively simple and pragmatic exercise to get these two trees described and then filled in. So if you do a summary of the revenue and the so-called EBIT, which was back here, the earnings before interest and tax, so the revenue minus the expenses, you can see that the revenue is going to be like this. And just similar to this graph here, we have a minus on the earnings in the first few years, but we're going to turn that on year 4, we're going to go into the plus side. And this is a relatively realistic curve to come with for a business plan. When you've done that, you need to show us that you're not just thinking of the best case in the world, but you need to present a base case, which is what you went into the business plan with, and that you described right at the beginning of the business. What do we think the potential market is? What are the customers? How many of this per year, and so forth? That's your base case, and that's development as expected, which is going to look possibly like this graph here. Then you should do a worst case and a best case. 2 scenarios. The worst case could be that competitors start to develop a similar product to yours within 2-3 years. So when you're actually hoping to break even at year 4, the competitor launches a new product onto the market, which is frustrating and irritating for your business. The market growth may become limited, 3%. Price war may start, so the other competitors may not produce a new product, but maybe they just dump their own price of their product by 50%. And maybe they planned that when they did their business plan 10 years ago. That could be the worst case. The best case could be that we actually squeeze the main competitor out of the market within 2 years. The market growth will exceed expectations, 15 to 20%. And we have price discrimination for targeted segments by 10%. So we're having a very smart marketing strategy to lock customers in there as well. Then you can do some sums based upon that, the worst case, the best case, the base case and the best case, and show that even the worst case is going to give us some type of a plus after 5 years. If it doesn't, then you've got an explanation problem over for investors. So your worst case also needs to be something which will give you an income after 5 years. Otherwise, you're not going to get very far with any investors, because quite often things go wrong. Okay, very briefly about an implementation plan. You've got all this sorted out, you've got all your sums done, and it's not just the back of an envelope anymore, you've got a bit more structure onto your incomes and your revenues. Now we want to implement it, and any business plan needs to have some sort of a Gantt chart telling us in details where it is, starting from the day we're writing this business plan, or the day that we're going to get the funding, to say we need to finish our product development, set up a business unit, hire staff and so forth, and a very overall consideration as to how you're going to implement your business plan. And again, this always gets shoved time-wise, but you should, the main shape of the model should be the constant, and the time, of course, can change. Okay, that was basically a very dogmatic walk through a business plan in great details. And I know there's lots of data there and lots of different material. All this material will be uploaded a little bit later. At the end of this presentation, there's a series of checklists which goes through every single phase of the business plan, which you can use to make sure you've gone through every aspect of the business plan. I'm not going to go through these in detail, but this is how they look. What I'm going to do instead is to go into a little case exercise. And I'd like you to watch 2 videos, and then after you've watched the videos, we're going to have an exercise, about 10 minutes or so. I want you to imagine what the product or service concept, the marketing strategy, the business model system, and the business case and the risks are for this particular case I'm about to show you now. Now we see if the technology works. Otherwise, I have it here. That was the first video, and just a little bit more detail and a few clues. Before I do that, maybe I could say that this quarter of the room, so these groups down this part, I'd like you to look at the product and service concepts in this and discuss that. You guys, that quarter of the room, I'd like you to look at the marketing strategy. Yeah, how we're going to do this. And then all you guys here, I want you to talk about the business model, business system. Then you guys here, I'd like you to talk about the business case and the risks. I'll show you one more video. Let's see if this one works. Try it here. Okay, so 10 minutes to discuss what the main business, what it was that you just saw there, and what's the product service concept, what's the marketing strategy, what's the business model, the business system, and what's the risks and the business, and how do we counter the risks that could come up. Okay? Okay, guys, shall we just have a follow-up on your discussions? So, the first couple of groups here, you could just do it ad hoc. What was the products or service concept? Describe what you understood from those two videos. Anyone?
We thought it was more based on advertising. We haven't really got any calculators on advertising.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back and describe in how we describe in our elevator pitch. What is the business here that we saw? So it's advertising business, yeah, but it's something quite special, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously.
But the thing that they move around so much, the exposure, if you could assign all of that bike instead of having it on one just in a window or something, you would get more exposure because they move around all day.
Yeah, so moving advertising,
Yeah.
with an added bonus that it's taking people in there as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I guess you would have some environmental thing like it's a bike and not a car.
Yeah. Okay, so with an extra environmental message, yeah. Other things about this particular product or service? Who's there a service for? Which customers are there? Maybe that's your question, but what's the what types of service or products are we talking about here when we can talk about customers?
It's usually two different angles that they're taking.
Yeah.
Right to show in the local area, so it's kind of strict in a way.
Yeah.
But also, if you don't seen before, C5, these things, when you roll up the show the video, it's very attractive for a person. But I mean, maybe the single unit would they be as
yeah. So the one user is the one who's taking the ride, and the one service there is giving people a ride. The other service is giving advertising. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to you guys over here about the marketing strategy, and that's the market analysis, and it's the identification of the different market segments and the rolling out. What did you discuss about this case here?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think this is very limited. So the area that can work is focused on big city centers, first of all, where people normally just walk. So it's a good alternative to regular cabs. And also, I think the kind of advertising they have with bikes, also companies with the same focus group. So they, like mobile companies, all that focused on attracting those kind of customers. So they have the same customer base.
Okay, so they've made a virtue out of a physical constraint that these things don't have a wide range, but on the other hand, as the gentleman said here as well, they're very close into the city centre, so they're moving around among the people, and therefore one of their marketing strategies is to go for advertising customers who are very relevant for those people that other advertising media doesn't get so close to. Okay. Other discussions about the marketing strategy?
In the same area, it's environmental friendly. So the company's advertising on the bikes could be in the same line of work, or highly concerned with the environment.
Could appeal to companies to have an environmental message to be on these as well. Okay. Good. Okay. What about the business model or business system? What do you guys discuss there? What's the business model behind this? How does a company earn money?
Well, you rent a bike to your bike driver.
Okay.
And then you give him over a percentage of what they earn from the taxi fare.
Okay, so that could be one model where you rent the bike to the driver, and then you also take as a company a percentage of what they earn. Okay, that's one model. Any other? What do you have to say?
We focus a bit like on the traditional tax business where they provide the tax free, but then they have to give a certain percentage of what they make.
Okay.
But then we would make it much lower here because there would be probably shorter trips and they probably wouldn't make so much money, so they will have to hand in quite a low amount of the money percentage to the owner of the bicycle company.
Yeah.
But here again, we would make the majority of this money on the commercials on the bicycles.
So you think the majority comes from the commercials on the bikes and
We think more than half.
more than half. Okay. Yeah. Other discussions down here about the business model? How does it all fit together?
Well, most of the way we agree with that they offer the bike free to show folks and they get a part of the profit.
Okay. So the profit from the tours that they've driven.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, and also advertising.
Okay. Great. Other things to say about the business model? How the whole thing was screwed together? No. You have something? No. Okay. Business case and risks. How to present this business to an investor? What type of investment is needed? And what risks are incurred? What did you discuss?
We discussed an issue about the weather.
Yeah.
That if it's cold or it's raining, it's a risk that the things won't work.
Sure. And there's a risk that people might not take a ride also. Yeah. So weather is very a big factor here for this business. Yeah.
And the customer, because it's often just tourists, or
Yeah.
in my opinion, it's more tourists than regular Danish people.
Yeah.
It's often just short trips of, Amsterdam or like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also, the bikes are suitable only for two people, and
Passengers. Yeah.
yeah, two passengers, and probably the only elderly people will use it because the young people can just walk, and young people with children, for example, or the families, they will not be able to use it.
Yeah, large families have a difficulty using them. Yeah. Okay. So plenty of risks there.
Yeah.
Other comments from you?
The cost as well, because it's
The cost of what?
expensive.
To take a ride or?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
It's 3 kroner per minute, I think.
Yeah,
and
it's
there's starting
20
fee.
kroner starting fee.
With this company or the ones you see in the city?
Company.
Okay. Right.
And also we discussed that the vehicles are very big and they take the whole alley for the
The
bicycles.
bike lane. Yeah. Okay.
So it could be some.
Could create some harm there. Well, not harm, but what do you call it? Some problems with the cyclists. Yeah. Okay. What do you guys discuss?
Most of the risks.
Most of the risks. Yeah.
One of them was agree with the group on there.
Yeah.
But one of the things was if there's no advertising or there's no way like to drive these workers would be like an income.
Okay. And did you base that on an assumption that a large amount or a certain amount of the income was coming from advertising? Did you discuss that, or what did you think the income from advertising? Okay, the numbers. Okay, right. Okay. Other risks or other ways of countering risks?
We thought the seasonal demand was probably going to be hard for the company itself, not for the operators or the cyclists, to be without income for many months, because it's probably just based on tourists and good weather. But there's also about the costs of purchasing those vehicles.
Yeah.
How much interest are you going to pay from?
Yeah. Did you discuss what such a vehicle may cost? Or?
It needs to be very cheap to compete with all the individual cyclists that do the same. So
So if you compare it to existing bicycles and the cost of this thing, then we need that. That's something that's pressing it. Yeah.
Probably produced in India or something very cheap.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Sorry.
We also talk about environmental problems. For example, they decide that we don't want bicycling.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Depending on where in the world it could be, then it could be some problems there in terms of infrastructure and things you're allowed and not allowed to do. Yeah. Okay. Final group here or groups. What do you discuss about?
We find out that we have to think about, there is something about 10,000 taxes.
Yeah.
If you want to go into that market, like, I don't know, 200 bikes.
Okay, so you saw it as a competition against regular taxes? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
but also because I think when you drive on a bike tax, it takes more time to go around. So you also are in the bike longer time than you are on a motor.
Right.
Most of that is actually more.
Right.
And about the risk that you were also discovering also, because doing it takes a little bit longer time, then maybe the customers is bought a little bit from the sit back. You get to see them maybe like customers and what happening to.
Okay. And maybe cold as well if it's in Copenhagen. Yeah. Seasonal, yeah. Okay, and you guys, any discussions? Risks and business models? No? Let's talk about something else. Okay. Right. Yeah, final comment, sorry, yes.
You could you just make a marketing strategy that says that we want to involve with the cykelbud and then take packages, because they cannot with one person on a bike, and then therefore we can deliver that service when we are not full and still get miles on the.
Yeah, so ways of optimizing the use of the vehicles, but also of the drivers, to ensure some type of an income, to have some type of you were saying a cycle courier cooperation. So maybe the green couriers, as they're called in Copenhagen, to do some sort of cooperation with them. So you're taking out maybe Austin's fruit and veg, because it's easy to have in one of those maybe. Yeah, okay. Yeah?
With that kind of company, it's relatively new to form of advertising. They've been around for a few years, but would that kind of company have to be good at marketing themselves, and as far as when they will be cycling around at certain times of the day, or
yeah, so
they cycle 24/7 every day, or
yeah, so your question about how this company convinces an advertising customer that it's actually worth the money, because it's a new advertising media, and how to convince that one, that the thing's going to be out there on the road, and two, it's going to be the right places, and how often, and so forth. So there's some things that need to be discussed there about contracts and advertising contracts and so forth. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments before I tell the story? Okay. It was an interesting analysis you had of those two videos, and let me tell the story of. Has anybody ever seen one of these vehicles, these particular ones in Copenhagen? Yeah? No? This company started its business in 2001, in fact. In the olden days, there used to be a car-free day in Copenhagen, no, car-free weekend, I think it was, in Copenhagen, where cars weren't allowed to drive within the city, and it was a big focus on environment. And the company organised the launch of this business to coincide with this car-free weekend. Surprisingly for this company, the same weekend, exactly the same weekend, two other companies started up. One with the Indian or Chinese rickshaws, and one with the Christiania bikes with the box on the front. And then there was this company as well. So there was the three competitors from day one, which is quite interesting from nothing in Copenhagen to these three. It's quite intriguing to see what the market forces were for all three of these companies to, on the same day, without even knowing each other or having spoken to each other, to start up at the same time. So there were some things there in place in Copenhagen City to try and promote green transport, and these three companies started. The business model was such that the company, in fact, invested in the bicycles, and these cycle taxis. They cost 55,000 Danish kroner each. So that's not that cheap. It's relatively expensive. Well knowing that these vehicles could be used in their regular way for about 6 months per year. So from April to September. So there was really something that needed to be earned in there. They rented the taxis to chauffeurs, to drivers, who were typically students doing a summer job or looking for a bit of extra cash, mostly in the weekends. Some were they set up some schemes with the unemployment offices in Copenhagen, where people who've been unemployed for a long time could try and come out and set up their own business and do this, and it was both a set up your own business and cycle here. The chauffeurs rented these bicycles for 150 Danish kroner per session, and the session was from 10 o'clock till 7 o'clock, so 9 hours. It was up to them what they did with it within that time, and everything they earned after that was their own money. There was you saw there was a New Line logo on somebody's clothes there, and they were all wearing black clothes. They were provided by a sponsor who paid a lot of money to have these clothes worn by the drivers, and the company loaned a set of clothes to these drivers. At its height in 2004, this company had 200 drivers on the books at any one time. So there was a lot of people needed to run these, and they had 11 of these bikes. So that was extremely important for them to have a lot of people there, but there was a problem as well, how to get all these clothes that had been sponsored, and the sponsor was not really happy to give 200 sets of clothes away, so there was a little problematic there. But the idea was that they would like the drivers to wear these clothes. Very quickly it showed that April was a bad month and September was a relatively bad month. May was okay because there's lots of holidays, but that was mostly the holidays and the weekends that were good, and during the days there was not a lot to do. So there was deals done with Grønnebud, the cycle people, and other organisations to deliver larger packages as a type of a franchise or as a supplier relationship to some of the couriers who also wanted to increase their green image. The company, I should say, they used the income, the 150 kroner per session, to maintain these bikes, and that was relatively, all of it was the business model was that they should use that money to employ a cyclesmith who would maintain these. And it showed as well that, of course, these bikes were most popular in the weekends and most popular from midnight to 4 or 5 in the morning. And this is where most of the fails came as well, which again became a relatively large expense. So all of the money that was earned in on the 150 kroner per session was used to maintain the bikes. All of the other income for the company was on the advertising, and that was a straight, it was 15,000 Danish kroner per bike per month. And we're talking 10 years ago now. So it was relatively high. But compared to, the company had done quite a detailed analysis of different types of markets, newspaper media, television media and so forth, and placed themselves as a complementary type of media. And one way they could actually put product samples in the back of the bike as well, so people could take a free product sample of coffee, or the AIDS Foundation put condoms in there, and all sorts of different types of things that they could get a little bit closer to the customer with product samples as well. So that was, they spend a lot of time to describe their unique selling points of this for the advertisers, and that was actually the most successful part of the business. That went very well, and the first couple of years there was a private loan because the banks wouldn't even touch this. The whole business model was very nicely prepared. The banks had never seen this before, so, and they really didn't know whether to trust this. It wasn't big money they had to invest, but the risks for the bank were too high. So there's a private loan here to buy 2 bikes for the first season. Within the first season, a couple of large companies, one in particular with the dots on was Go, which is now EasyJet. They gave so much money in the second season that the company could buy 3 more bikes, so they had 5 bikes. And within that season, a hotel bought a whole season's advertising, which meant there was enough to expand. And slowly, the company was starting to reach this point where they were starting to earn. They had a 5-year plan, where on year 4, in fact, they should start to break even. Given that they also were putting a lot of free time into this, that wasn't taken into account. On year 3, there was a knock on the door of the company, and it was the tax authorities. And they'd heard that this company had 200 employees. And the company said, no, we don't have 200 employees, we're actually renting these bikes to 200 people. So, well, how can you, I said, we've heard that the company has an employee-employer relationship with the drivers. I said, no. The company said, well, these are actually rented to them and it's their responsibility. But how about insurance, said the tax authority. Oh, well, we've actually insured the bike and the customers and the drivers. So we're fully covered. Aha, you've done something for the drivers, which means you've got an employer-employee relationship. Plus, you're giving them clothes. Plus, another thing I forgot to mention was that the company was actually quite worried. They actually second-guessed. So in their marketing strategy here, they looked at all the different types of stakeholders that could come in and disturb the business, also in the business case and risk, and thought that this thing about tax and black work, as it's the famous monster in Denmark of working black, sort arbejde as it's called, would be a question. So they actually did a competition. So they didn't force the drivers. They said to show the drivers how to set up their own business. They even had communication with the job agencies in Copenhagen to have this set up. And then they said the best 3 drivers in this season, the ones who earn the most money on tours, will get a free trip to London. And that was provided by the flight company who gave them these free tickets. It was a competition. And they all got they were offered a set of receipts that they could go out and give receipts to customers, because the company didn't want there to be any doubt that this was anything underhand, and this was a business which was undermining the welfare system and so forth. But even that was a little nail in the coffin of the company, because the tax authority said, well, you're giving them receipts, therefore you are employing the customers, the drivers. So what actually happened was that the company was told to pay. They said, well, we've heard you have around about 200 drivers. They came into the office and they took about 1 metre of the books, which were completely ordered, all the drivers, all the income from the advertising, all the income from the renting, and did a calculation, said you've got about 200 drivers on the books. Therefore, we estimate that you should take this and this amount of money from the drivers. The drivers should go out, you should employ them, and you should take a model which you guys were talking about in the middle. You should take a cut of it and then pay the drivers a salary. And we'll actually backdate that a year. So from 2002, you now owe us £500,000 kroner. And the company, of course, didn't have this money. They already had to, they were just about here. They had to loan some more money to actually pay this money, and then took the tax authorities to court. After a year and a half, this company won the case in the tax authorities. It's in the Landsskatteraten, it's called. It's the Danish National Tax Authority Complaints Court. And they won the case. The problem was that in the meantime, it took a year and a half, and all the other drivers had gone over to the other two companies, of course, because the tax authorities were trying this out as a case. And the company unfortunately closed in the end of 2004, effectively for business, and sold the bikes, fortunately, and closed a little bit of that gap there. This is a bit of a negative story to end this on, but it's a warning for you that no matter how beautiful your business plan is, there's always some things you need to be aware of. This company, when they look back, they decided we didn't do a proper stakeholder analysis. The marketing strategy was good, but it was too positive. And our risk analysis was really undermining the risks of some really unknown stakeholders, which we didn't really think about here, and therefore that tripped them up.
So how will then the likes of McDonald's avoid that sort of issue with franchise? I mean,
franchise is something different, because you're franchising to a business owner who's actually running the business, and then they're employing the people who work inside McDonald's. So it was a different situation. Here, the tax authorities basically could see 200 anarchists running around putting money in their pockets left, right and centre at midnight and 3 in the morning, and basically said, we'll find one safe point of collection for that money, and we'll give the responsibility to those guys. So it's a bit of a different situation. But the lessons to learn from this are that, and this company came out at the other side, and they managed to cut the losses relatively well, luckily, and sell the bikes to another part of the world where the laws were a little bit different and a little bit more lenient. So that was a little story, and if you're wondering why I know so much about it, this was my company. So I've had a couple of really good experiences as well with other companies, but I thought that this one was actually a nicer story to tell, because there's a lot of learnings in there about how to be extremely systematic in your work, and think negative, I'm sorry, but think in every single stage about what could go wrong with this business as well, because it really does trip you up if you don't think about the bad guys too. Okay, just look at the end of this. Just to wrap up the day's lecture, did we achieve the objectives? Well, I think we talked about the different elements of a promising business idea, and with the case there, you came with a lot of very accurate analyses based upon the 2 videos about what a promising business idea could be. We talked a bit about how to make business ideas sellable and resistible and exciting. We've just talked about what to keep in mind when presenting a business plan, but also how to really detailed analyze your market and your competition. How to choose your target markets. We discussed that a lot in the case, especially. Who were the target market? There were 2 target markets there. And what your market strategy is, in fact. You can either rent a bike or give it away or whatever. What is a business system? We talked about that, and how to design the business system on the value chain model there, and what type of financial planning tools and techniques you can use. And then, most importantly, as a final message, is to how to consider and represent risks and make sure that all your risks, that worst case model, is actually the most important you can ever do in your business plan. Okay? Any questions? Then it's over to you. Good luck with your business planning in your own projects, and I think Tom was going to go give you a bit of a framing of what you're going to, how much of that business plan you actually should be expected to do in your own projects as well, because I don't think we can achieve the whole thing, or you can, in the whole of your project, but I think Tom, you can give some guidelines about that.
That's right. So if we can thank Tim, our speaker, to begin with. Thank you very much, Tim, for a great A lot of Tim's presentation today directly relates to the business plan that you'll be filling in and submitting to the Venture Cup, which comes out on Thursday. So as soon as that comes out, I'll submit it round. The template that currently exists on the website is last year's one. So I'll send that out this Thursday. I suggest what we do is take 5 minutes break, and then I've just got a brief 5-minute lecture for you, and then we can go into half an hour's group work. So if we can just be back for 25 past, that would be great. Well, I hope you enjoyed this morning's lecture from Tim. I'm just going to take 5 minutes now to tell you what's in store for the next 3 weeks running up to Easter. So next week, apologies, there was some place on the website which said the midterm presentations was 2 weeks' time, but on the agenda it said the 13th for a while. It is actually next week, and I've got some requirements for what I expect of you for the presentation next week. 2 weeks' time, we have the innovation startup cases, so I hope this is going to be a really interesting lecture. We've got Jean and Lurker presenting on their award-winning or Venture Cup winning business case, and they'll give you their pitch that they actually presented at the Venture Cup. So that'll give you some idea of what you might be up against. Also from Rasmus Davidson, who did the same thing, he also won the Venture Cup, and he'll be presenting his project, how he went about it, and how he went about the business pitch. Then, very strangely, Podio, who I recommended you all use at the beginning of the term, are actually a Copenhagen startup business, and I had no idea. But I found out and contacted them, and they're actually sending along the CEO of Podio to come talk to you. So that should be really good. And hopefully, he said he's going to try to do it quite free-form. So if you've got any suggestions about his software, or you'd like to give him some feedback, I'm sure he'd be interested. And then we have Torben Andersen, the Chief Communications Officer from Better Place. Has anybody heard of Better Place before? Okay, good. They're a very innovative service-orientated company, which is basically going into battery supply for electric-powered cars. So he's going to present on how Better Place started up and how it's evolved over the period of time. Then the week after, we have a lecture on intellectual property from Guardian IP Consulting. For some of your groups in particular, this will be a really important lecture on how to protect your idea or your business. So particularly for the people who think they might have something patentable or need to patent their device, you might want to do a bit of preparation in advance for this lecture. And Verena Simpson, the consultant who's going to be working with us, said we're welcome to send a couple of projects in advance to her that she can have a look through and base the cases around for the day. So what I'd like you to do, if you're interested, if you think your business should be looked at, write down concisely what your product does beyond the current paradigm. So that basically states your innovative principle. Identify which features are essential to your product. So without those features, your product couldn't exist or work. And then also identify some delighting or extra features where without them, the product still works, but it wouldn't quite be the same. And if you send me these in advance, I can send them on to Verena, and we can build them into the lecture and the workshop, so we can actually sort of help you develop your claims and your patent case during the lecture. So I'm thinking probably the tail light group, yours is reasonably technical, you're about at that stage perhaps. The group there on the links between the shipping containers, yours might also be applicable. But I'll also send you out some extra information on how you might think about your businesses and structure some questions for the consultant. Now to next week. Yeah, apologies in advance. Sorry I got the date wrong on one of the slides. It is actually next week. And we're going to start half an hour earlier. So it's going to be from 8 till 12. And you're going to do 5-minute presentations and then 10 minutes questions. You're going to be ranked, or you're going to score points. There's 10% of your course available for this pitch. You're going to be ranked on the quality of your pitch, the slides you propose. Of course, you don't have to use PowerPoint if you don't want to. And then the questions and attendance. So we're all going to be in the audience, and if you ask an interesting question of somebody else's presentation, I'll make a note of it, and you may get extra grades for it as well. So yeah, I'm trying to encourage audience participation here. So some of the things you might want to consider. Now you're all at slightly different stages of your business development, so it doesn't apply to all of you, but some of the things you might want to consider in your 5-minute pitch is your target market and estimated size. So that was the stuff that Jakob was talking about last week. Your technology, product or business proposition. This is whether you might want to be providing a service, a product, a technology. What is it you're going to be providing, and what's your business proposition? What do you need to achieve your goals? So who do you need to consult? What do you need to do? What is your plan and timeline? And also, what barriers are there to success? What are the major risks to your business proposition? Do we have any questions regarding next week's business pitch?
Percent, is that by group number?
Jakob came up with the ingenious idea of not telling you which order you're pitching in, which means you all have to turn up from the start. So yeah, I'm not sure yet. I might do it in groups of 4, and we'll see. Maybe I'll do related businesses together. I'm not sure yet. But if I have an order, I'll send it you by email.
Bring up our own computers?
That's a good question. If you present off a Mac, you need an adapter for this, I believe. Otherwise, you're welcome to present off my laptop if you just bring it on a memory stick. It's up to you. I do request that you bring, if you're presenting on PowerPoint, bring printed slides for both myself and Jakob so we can make some notes on them, because we'll give you your grades based on the notes we make. So bring 2 sets of printed slides. Now with regards to the presentation and the pitch, you don't all have to present. So if one of you is a really good presenter, maybe you should give it to the one really good presenter, or maybe you want to just do 2 of you, but I'd like you to all be available to answer the questions. So if you're not presenting, you might get a question instead. Any other questions? Okay, well we have 25 minutes left today, so you can either go take an early lunch, or myself and Jakob will be around. If you want to put your hands up, we can come and discuss your business ideas with you, as we weren't here last Friday. Okay.